Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekends with Amit. I am your host, Krishanu, and today we are going to talk about two aspects. If these were strong enough in all human beings, you'd hardly ever had seen wars and crimes and things like that. And I'm talking about compassion and empathy. To talk on this from the viewpoint of quantum activism, please help me welcome Professor Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisor.
Thank you, Krishanu.
Thank you.
A very warm welcome to the show. The subject that we will be discussing today are compassion and empathy. Now, this, I said in the prelude, would have been the antidote of most of the things that are not good in our society. So, to elaborate on this, I would invite Professor Goswami to start the talk.
Well, compassion is the everyday word. Of course, from quantum science point of view, Valentina has a whole bunch of things to say. I will not infringe on that. But empathy is what people feel confused about. What is not understood, no thanks to behavioral psychologists and a whole bunch of other therapists, they equalize empathy to local, something that is local, communicated with signals. No, empathy is different. See, the brain has neurons called mirror neurons. They mirror the activity of a person who is going through an emotional situation in front of me. My brain automatically resonates with that, and so I pick it up. And this is what we mean by sympathy. You will notice if others cry, you have a tendency of crying. If others laugh, you have a tendency of laughing. It's all due to mirror neurons. And sympathy is a phenomenon caused by the same thing. Mirror neurons pick it up, and so I feel sympathy for the other. All local with signals. I mean, this is okay, but the point is that if you pick it up, it's not good for me. You can see, right? Before there was one person crying, now there are two. What good does it do to the world? Because I really have no reason to cry. I'm crying simply because my brain picks it up without my assent, without asking me. This is actually sad. The whole thing can be avoided by developing the quality of empathy, which is non local, which is a quantum concept. Non local is a person's feelings that we pick it up, not pick up actually, that we experience by being one with the person. Non locality means signalless communication. Non local communication with another person makes me one with that person momentarily. One meaning oneness in consciousness, not oneness in body, of course not. Our bodies remain separate, but in consciousness we become one. And so I can experience what he or she is experiencing. This is very good because I can experience, so I know exactly what this person is going through. So now I can, if she wants my help, I can help her. I can help him because I know exactly what they're going through. And therefore, I can, from my experience of the same thing and from quantum science, I'll be able to offer some help. But notice the advantage. I am not picking it out. My brain is not picking it out. And therefore, I am not going to make a brain circuit of it, of suffering. I just momentarily experience something in order to communicate better with a person who is suffering. Empathy. This is when we need it. This is what we teach our students at the university master's and PhD level that we have. Okay? Now I will let Valentina explicate on compassion. Valentina?
Thank you. Yeah, it's very good for people to understand, especially about empathy, what you said, because for me it was a big challenge in my first years. And now empathy and compassion then go very well hand in hand. And if you ask yourself what is humanity's essential nature, how are we? Are we really selfish or by and large altruistic? So there were all kind of theories in ancient China. Humans were thought to be born pure, and it was the world that corrupted them. And then there's a similar philosophy taking shape during the Enlightenment, among which philosophers as Locke and Rousseau. Also for Plato and many to follow, the emotions were that what corrupted us. Yeah, so the intellect was our salvation, and Plato compared this lifelong struggle to a chariot. The emotions are the horses, and the charioteer serves as the intellect who keeps the horses in line and steers them. So this concept was carried throughout the ancient world until Christianity and the concept of original sin. So it's very, very good to ponder about these things. Nietzsche, another one you heard about, saw compassion as an utter failing. So if you are really compassionate, you would wish sickness, difficulty, hardship, on your friends, as these were the only things in his conception, that help human develop, making them stronger and smarter. So there's a lot in the evolutionary science, but eventually compassion was also developed. There were researches, evolutionary advantage that helped our as species survive and thrive. And this is not a new concept. Darwin also in The Descent of Man argues about sympathy and compassion to be some of humanity's strongest traits. And of course, Darwin's survival of the fittest was taken to mean that humans are naturally competitive and overwhelmingly motivated by self-interest. And then it went further. So there's a whole a bunch of things that we can really understand this evolution of humanity. There's even the book Ascent of Humanity that Amit is publishing. So the importance of compassion as an evolutionary trait, I think at first time it was in Wilson's book in 1975, book Sociobiology is called. And this guy, he argued that we were imbued with a set of social behaviors meant to aid our survival, and that these have a biological foundation. So his theory was called kin selection. And he thought that by working together and helping one another, this clan of hunter-gatherers would improve their prospects, which helped each individual survive. So, and then later, Wilson again amended his theory, saying that altruism had a limit. And after running a mathematical assessment, he and his colleagues found that compassion helped the community. But when it came at the expense of the individual, conflict ensued. So there's a lot of debate, and eventually, again, scientists have made great strides in uncovering what they believe to be the biological basis of human compassion. And there was a study in 2012 published in the journal Brain, researchers at Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York City, who declared that they had discovered where compassion resides in a region of the brain known as the anterior insular cortex. Yeah. So this is the epicenter for what we call the social brain, and then further research has found that much of the central nervous system contributes to what we consider altruistic thoughts and behavior. And then Emory University study followed this brain activity of participants while they helped someone in need. And researchers found that the areas of the brain responsible for feelings of happiness and reward, the caudate nuclear and the anterior cingulate, were activated when participants came to a person's aid. So while the fight or flight response is triggered by adrenaline, which prepares the body to manage danger, oxytocin, of course, is released when we act compassionately. So if you want, this is the calm and cuddle hormone that lowers our heart rate and promotes bonding. It's the very same one that floods a mother's body during breastfeeding, or lovers' bodies while making love. So again, it's again further research on what's happening when the vagus nerve is activating and this warm expansive feeling appears in the chest. So we are inviting you to come to our courses. But besides just this, a lot of study and a lot of explanation of the evolution of humanity, compassion also is the basis of all religions and all authentic spiritual paths, and it gives them life, and nourishes all these parts. So it's of course it's a very deep and a very superior feeling, I would say. For example, in the you heard the tradition of the bodhisattvas, that they are ready to give up the ultimate fusion with the divine reality in order to just remain in manifestation and serve humanity until everybody makes this leap. There's of course the example of compassion in Jesus Christ, and that's expressed in so many parables and acts in his life. Then in Islamism, you find in each of the 114 verses of the Quran, except one, it doesn't has it, but they all start with this formula: in the name of God, the merciful and full of compassion, something like that. Then you find in Jainism this feeling of compassion, not only about in regards of human beings, but also in regards of any living being. So life is considered sacred in all its forms, and that's why Jainism may be the only religion that is asking, for strict vegetarianism. And then my favorite, I have to say, is the Hindu tradition that considers that the Divine Mother takes the form of the great cosmic power Tara, and I will show the picture of Tara, in order to show compassion towards all beings, and compassion and divine grace. Again, they go hand in hand in order to guide them and offer her unconditional protection in need, in crossing the ocean of sufferance, how it's called. Yeah. And then if you want another tradition, the Judaic tradition, it's mentioning in many episodes the divine compassion towards human mistakes and also human sufferance. And then again, is the compassion it's in the middle of the Mahayana Buddhism tradition, because only compassion manifested towards all human beings in sufferance. In sufferance you can put here also ignorance, because ignorance is the source of all the sufferance and disease eventually. So this kind of compassion towards all human beings is enough to make a major difference between the condition of arhat, how it's called, towards the one who's aspiring on this path, which is called Hinayana, towards reaching perfect spiritual perfection is called, and the Bodhisattva path as well. Yeah, so in the Mahayana path. And eventually it takes us towards this feeling that we are really all brothers and sisters, and along ages, compassion proved to be a deep, affective connection and spiritual connection among all living creatures. And it also shows very clear that we are not alone. We are never alone. Yeah, and also just to end with this, it's because it's a wonderful subject. Sri Aurobindo, a great yogi of India, a great sage, was saying that the real steps in spiritual evolution are done only when humanity itself will make these steps, and starting with compassion. Amit?
Thank you, Valentina. It was really across religious beliefs, spiritual systems. This is very clear that compassion is a key element to everyone. To wrap it up all, now over to Professor Goswami.
Thank you, Krishanu. Hello, everyone again. Valentina explained more or less everything there is to know, except maybe I'll mention one thing, which is that recently a book was published, Altered Traits. The authors are Daniel Goleman and Richard Davidson, two neuroscientists who explain the fMRI, that's functional magnetic resonance imaging technique, pictures, where you can tell which brain organs are active during the time of the picture taken. It revealed that people who are long-term meditators have meditated like 30 to 40,000 hours in their whole life. Meditate on what? Meditate on loving kindness, which is another name for compassion. What happens, the brain changes. The brain, ordinary people's brain, is very locally situated. We call it ego, right? Constricted consciousness. The brain of these people are quantum brains. The different brain apparatuses move in synchrony, move in coherence, like a chorus line. This amazing coherence is a sign of quantum behavior. Also, the brain waves shift to gamma over 40 hertz. That's symptomatic of very high ability of concentration, like rocket scientists and great mathematicians. So these people have achieved a state of very high, what we call soul living. And it is evidence-based. Neuroscience has verified it. So now you decide. Is it worth going there and live happily forever after? And be compassionate with others, share your happiness with others? Isn't it worth thinking about? Change the worldview from materialism, eat, drink, and be merry, to transform and be happy? Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. To all our viewers, please visit our website www.amitgoswami.org. If you have any questions regarding anything that we do, that we notice on our websites, if you have a question regarding this very talk or anything at all under the sun, please reach us at info@amitgoswami.org and we will answer to that. Thank you so much. See you next week.